Hello, I'm Paul Baier, and this is One Step at a Time, a podcast where we talk to interesting people about their careers and challenges they faced. Today, we're with Senator from Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick. Thank you for being here.
Hey, good to see you, Paul. How you doing?
Doing great. So, you've had a pretty badass career. So, just walk us through how you've gone here and to become a senator.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania in a town called Bloomsburg, and I played sports, wrestled, and played football. And wrestling is a big deal in Pennsylvania. That got me into West Point, and so I went to West Point, and I was the co-captain of the wrestling team. And I went in the Army, 82nd Airborne Division, and that was the time where the 82nd went to Iraq as part of the Gulf War. So the first 9 years of my adult life were in the military, which was incredible, like the greatest thing could have ever done. And then I had a career in business and, had some success there. And I said, I want to serve. At West Point, you learn about duty, honor, country. And so I finally made the decision a couple of years ago to run for the Senate.
And in those years of being in the military, you won a bronze medal. So, walk us through what.
Well, the thing about the military is there's so many people who have done so much, like the bravery in World War II or Vietnam or even in the last 20 years. So I was just part of a team that had a big mission, and we blew up a lot of munitions in a big ammunition depot in Iraq. And my unit was recognized, and I got awarded the Bronze Star. But the most important thing is there are just so many great people in our military, so many heroes. And the thing that you learn in the military is, we're all just Americans. And in my platoon, I grew up in rural Pennsylvania. In my platoon, there was a kid from rural Alabama. There was an African American guy from Newark. There was a kid that dropped out of college from Boston. And there was a platoon sergeant who was from Puerto Rico. In that group, we went together, we trained together, we went to war together. I never remember talking about religion. I never remember talking about race. I never remember talking about like what political party you are. Just all part of one team
All America.
for America and protecting one another. And that's the great thing about the military. It teaches you about love of country. It teaches you about being an American.
Well, obviously, you've used those skills from the military, from wrestling, to lead one of the largest hedge funds in the world. I mean, using those skills and now becoming a senator, I mean, how do you use those leadership styles?
Well, the thing I've learned about leadership is, you've got to continue to learn. The most important thing in life, I think, in any career, politics or business, is you're constantly learning. And if you're learning and trying new things, you're going to fail. So failure, I tell my girl, I've got 6 kids. I tell my girls, failure is the thing that happens before you succeed. It's inevitable. I was the CEO of that big company. I got fired from the same company when I was the CEO. I got fired as a CEO, and then I came back to be the CEO again 6 years later.
Wow.
When I ran for the Senate, I lost by 900 votes, and I ran again and won. So, part of life is navigating the learning and the failing. And I think to be a good leader, you have to constantly be learning. And to be a good leader, you have to be thinking about something other than yourself. Leadership is not about you. It's about service to others. And I think if you can keep those two principles in mind, it makes a big difference.
I like to say that everyone has something, a challenge they face. What's one big challenge that you've faced, and how have you overcome it?
Well, probably the first big challenge was getting fired. I had this great career. I'd been in the government. I got to know your dad there for the first time. Had been very successful in business, and I took this job as the CEO of this big firm, co-CEO. And about 18 months into it, I got fired, and I had to decide. I felt mistreated. I felt like it wasn't fair. But there was an element of truth in the reason I got fired, which is I wasn't making change happen fast enough. And so, after a lot of reflection, I said, I'm going to stick with it. And I took a lesser role at the company and started to learn and get better and make change happen much more quickly. And, 4 or 5 years later, I came back as the CEO again. And even though that was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through, I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal that I got fired. It was so painful, but it was actually one of the things I value most now because I was able to learn from it. I was able to become successful. And I learned that you have to have empathy when others fail, and you have to help people learn how to navigate through failure.
That's pretty awesome. So, what advice would you give someone that's going either into a leadership role or just going into a new job or going into college?
Well, leadership, I mean, there's been books and books written about leadership, and I've had the chance to work with a lot of great leaders. And, I'd say there's 4 things that I have seen time and again in the people that are best at leadership. First one is They got a vision, you know? Yeah, come on through there. Thank you. Sorry. Hi. They've got a vision of where they want to take the organization. They're looking forward. That's the first thing. Second thing is they're humble. Leaders are humble. Good leaders are humble. They're constantly learning. They know they need to draw insight from others. Third, they're tough and resilient. You know, if you're going to put yourself in the ring, if you're going to stand in front of an organization and lead, you got to be tough and resilient. You got to be able to learn and grow. And then finally, they're selfless. It's not about you. It's about service to others. So a lesson of this, but it gives you an example of what I mean. When you're in the military, like you go to breakfast or lunch, the leaders eat last. The troops eat first. That's the way leadership is. It's about service to other people. If you're a senator from Pennsylvania, it's not about you. It's about the 13 million people in Pennsylvania. And how do you try to work hard to make their lives better? That's the key point of leadership.
And with all that adversity and knowledge that you've gained, do you think you'll be running for United States president in 2028?
Absolutely not. I am glad to be the senator from Pennsylvania. Feel really fortunate, and I worked really hard. The great thing about losing is it was a gut check. Hey, do I really want to do this? And I feel privileged to do it, and trying to do the best job I can.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Paul.
It's one step
Congratulations.
at a time. Please join us next time.